Welcome to the Relationships Inside Out podcast with Doctors Gregory Siebert and Kimberly Murray, licensed marriage and family therapists. Join them on this journey as they explore the ins and outs of relationships.
Welcome to Relationships Inside Out, where today is about don't stop dating.
This is more than just when you first meet your partner. This is 10, 20, 30 years into a marriage, a relationship. We have to keep dating our partner.
What?
I know. You can't get lazy. It's not uncommon that couples lean into apathy. The further along we get into a relationship, we take things for granted. We stop taking care of ourselves. We don't nourish the relationship. And that's when shit kind of goes off the rails.
I would say probably over 95% of the couples I've seen in my practice over the last decade don't date.
100%.
That's a huge thing. And that's actually something that I have couples do. Like, yeah, we're in here, we're talking about problems, trying to resolve problems, but not everything has to be problem saturated. You can still also have fun. And that's what Gottman would say is building positive sentiment, like finding ways to, still like and love your partner where you can learn to give them benefit of the doubt. And it's a nice balance because if it's all problem saturated, that's a miserable relationship.
It's awful.
Who wants to be in there? And typically that's what happens with couples. They come in, like we fell in love, like we fell all this stuff. It's like, well, what are you doing to maintain it? What are you doing to prioritize your relationship? Oh, well, we got work and kids. Like we're just too busy. Okay. Well, you can expect to not feel connected. Yeah.
Right? People get bored. People lose interest. Yeah. And then they say, well, I don't know, like infidelity, right? I don't know how it happened. It happened over time. Infidelity, yes, is a moment, but it happens over time.
A lot of times, yeah, typically.
I stopped dating my partner. We stopped giving a shit about each other. So I got bored.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel nourished. So we fought all the time. I went somewhere else.
Yeah. And to be clear, it's on the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. It's the fact that the relationship was not nourished and attended to and prioritized, which is very hard because it is the first thing sacrificed when stressors enter your life. Work, especially kids.
Oof.
That's a big one. So it isn't something that is like, oh, we should be able to do this. It is hard. It takes a lot of effort and you have to be very, very intentional about it. Even couples that we're working with have a very hard time following that homework.
And we are therapists, and I think I can speak for you, Greg, where we give homework, like interventions, right?
Yeah.
Things to do in between sessions. I tell couples that's where the growth happens, not the 50 minutes with me, but how are you taking what we talked about and applying it? And to your point, a big quote unquote intervention is dating. Shouldn't even have to be an intervention. And yet that is a huge one for the couples we work with of what are you doing to show each other love, to create intimacy, to create spontaneity, attraction. If you think it's just going to come, it's not.
Those are rough sessions when you're like, well, did you do your homework? No. Great. So what do you want to work on today?
So bad, but it happens all the time.
Yeah, and I definitely want to use the space how you want to use it. There's just an expectation that, well, you should be able to, work on this right now. It's like, well, part of this work is you guys building outside of here to bring in to process what's happening. And then we end up talking about like barriers, right? So what are the barriers to you dating? And it always goes back to stress.
Money, work, kids.
Let's talk about the money one.
Oh,
you don't have to go on expensive dates.
No, you don't spend any money.
Nope.
You can pack a picnic and go sit at a park for free.
Yep.
You already have that food in your fridge. Yep. Pack it up, take it out. Same with stargazing. What a night.
Stargazing, you can ride bikes together.
Love it.
You don't have a bike, ride your kids.
Go on a walk.
Go on a hike.
I tell people, if you don't want to leave your house because it's cold, because you don't feel like it, cool. Get some popcorn, get some candy, set up like a movie theater with the fireplace on and a blanket on the floor. Make it sexy and romantic, not just sitting on your couch. If you want to be on a couch, cool, but add a little something to it. Candles, some ambiance. Add something that makes it special.
Build an adult level fort.
Love.
I mean, that goes back to our episode on play. Like, there's nothing wrong with having play. I mean, you can play games together. You can connect over building a puzzle together. There's different ways to connect. And this is where creativity comes. Oh, I'm just too tired, too exhausted. Well, we can't wait to be motivated to do these things because that's not how it works.
Or to have more time or energy.
Because that's not how it works.
It's not going to happen.
Once you do these things, the enjoyment and the benefit you get from it then serves potentially as a reward and it motivates you.
It can be hard. Don't get me wrong. I'm a mom of 2. We have friends who are parents of 5 children, and they still have to do this too, or no children, but they're busy with careers or taking care of a family member or whatever it might be. Life isn't going to slow down, right? I say it all the time I can't wait for life to slow down. It is such a trap. It's not going to slow down.
That's why I would say it's not about happily ever after. It's about who can you get through the shit with.
Facts.
Because that's really what's
Facts.
happening. You want to be a unified front of the team. And granted, it oscillates. It's not going to be perfect all the time. But in generally, you want to be able to trust this person can get through the shit with you.
To laugh through the hard moments. We just took a trip with our kids, and both of them were on one the whole trip. We're just in really awful rare form. And instead of looking at my partner and being mad at him or I hate you or whatever, there was a moment when our kids were melting down where we just turned and laughed. And that's the kind of partner I want for people and the kind of moments we want to build, right?
Yeah.
He's my partner and we're going to get through whatever chaos is coming because that's what we do, right? We keep moving forward. But to keep that kind of relationship, I have to date him.
Yeah.
I can't just expect he's going to be that partner if I'm not nourishing him, our marriage, myself.
Yeah.
I have to facilitate that space.
And part of that, like kind of using your experience on your recent trip, is this idea of parents have a responsibility to set boundaries if they want.
Yeah.
They can say, this is a family trip. Great. Don't expect a date then. Right. Or maybe on the trip, you've carved something in because you have other family there that can watch your kids or something. But even trips, like I have couples that go away for the weekend because they can do that. Awesome. They get away from the kids and all the distractions are out of there. That's like the most ideal. On a very simple level, you can go out to dinner. The issue now becomes, what do you talk about?
Ooh, that's a hard one. It's hard to know what to talk about, right? On our trip, we had our kids, obviously. So for one of our dinners, we brought their headphones and their iPads. Okay, I know this is not quality parenting tip here, but it kept them quiet and distracted where we could have a date, not in the most ideal sense, but in what was practical and attainable for us.
Yeah.
And so in that space, we could talk about future planning.
And what you're talking about is being intentional in that space.
Yeah.
Because you could just, there's parents, and I see this, they're like, okay, the kids are distracted.
Or they get to their phones. Now I can dink around on my stuff.
I'm just going to stare at my plate of food. I don't even want to talk. Like I'm just
back.
You have to be intentional about that space, even if it's for only like 5-10 minutes. And this is a place that couples struggle as well. What do we talk about? And a lot of times it goes to the kids or to work.
Oh,
a lot of times it's stress outside. And I think when we're doing time to connect, work and kids aren't necessarily the best topics to connect on.
I tell people you can't both think of your kids and desire sex. That would make you weird. So you can't create this space where all we're talking about is kids and then think that we're going to have sexy time later or have a romantic dinner.
Or talk about stressful work that only maybe ramps us up and shuts down our endocrine system because we're too stressed.
And then we think we're going to want to hop our partner's bones. It's not going to happen. It's not. You have to create an environment. It's not just about sex, right? But it's producing oxytocin. It's feeling connected with my partner. We don't produce cortisol and oxytocin at the same time. Cortisol is our stress hormone. Oxytocin's our bonding. So if I want to bond with my partner, talking about things that produce cortisol isn't going to facilitate that.
We've talked about in a previous episode on how women and men, their desire is different. Like women takes a buildup, right? And so
it's reactive.
In a relationship where your partner's a female and you're wanting to kind of get connected and maybe even have sexy time later, that buildup, that connection time is part of the buildup. Feeling connected definitely relieves stress. And so it does take time. Like it can't be the spontaneous, which typically in a male is like, oh, we can just do it right now. Like there has to be buildup. And this is where this effort also is advantageous for the relationship on an intimacy level.
Even in terms of what to talk about, if you don't know what turns your partner on, what helps them feel connected in order to lead to sexy time or at least romance, that's a topic to talk about. Ask your partner, what do you consider foreplay? What do you consider intimacy? What kind of communication do you need in order to feel like we can go to the bedroom?
Yeah.
There is often a precursor, especially for women, to get to that place. If you don't know what it is, don't guess. Just ask.
Yeah. And anecdotally, over the last decade, that answer has typically been, I need to feel connected to you. Now the question becomes, because, even when you're on a date, curiosity is huge,
Mhm.
right? If you're the only one talking, there's not reciprocity, you're not connecting.
Mhm.
You're not asking questions, we're not connecting, right? Be curious. What's happening? What do you like about your day? What are your peaks for this last week?
Mhm.
Like, have you thought about what you want in the next couple of years for us? Or,
Mhm.
I mean, ask these questions to get to know your partner and connect a little bit. You can ask what if you feel comfortable in public or wherever you're at to ask that, like, what is foreplay, or how do you feel connected?
Mhm.
Because some people don't like talking about this out in public. They don't like talking about it at home behind doors,
Fact.
let alone. So
I take that for granted. I will talk about anything anywhere. I'm that human.
there's different people have different boundaries.
Sure.
So just kind of take that in consideration of what questions you're asking and when. But that question of connection and what you want in the bedroom, how can we communicate more effectively in the bedroom? And I notice with couples too, if they're not connecting in the bedroom, a lot of times it's because they don't know how to communicate about what they
Mhm.
want. And there's a lot of assumption that my partner should know. And then there's a lot of sense of failure, a lot of resentment.
Mhm.
And that then becomes the barrier to it, right?
Mhm.
And that is also something to talk about, is what's happening for you when I don't like this things, or like when you tell me or show this facial expression, it makes me think that you're not enjoying it and I just want to shut down, right? And sometimes you're probably going to need to go to a therapist to break this down and talk about it.
But getting started on those conversations, even if it doesn't end in sex, what helps you feel connected to me?
Yeah.
What do we need in our relationship to go from good to great, or bad to good, or even neutral? Starting to talk about, okay, well, these are the things I want us to work on, or talking about dreams. Where do we want to be in 5 years, 10 years?
Well, hold on. I do want to say this is what we want to work on. Don't get stuck in the problem saturated of what's wrong with the relationship.
Yes.
Make sure there's balance of what you like as well. And maybe even in an ideal world, sandwich it. This is what I love. These are some things I would like to work on.
The shit sandwich.
Without you language. You don't do shit around the house. What I love when we go on walks together. Probably not going to hit right.
How you word it matters. It's a validation sandwich. I call it a shit sandwich.
Yeah.
Good, bad, good. Not bad, critical.
Yeah.
Right? So making sure that we're nesting it in gratitude, appreciation, things that we see that are positive.
And I like that this is something that is a ritual for couples, because desires change, wants change, stressors change. And we always have to keep checking in. My partner might not always like what they did before, and now they're not enjoying it. And I notice that we're not feeling as connected. We have to continually check in. We have to ask questions. And if we have a hard time thinking of those questions, which a lot of us do, because it's awkward, right? Like when I'm dating my partner again, like we just kind of been on this assumption machine mode where we just take care of the kids and go to work and come back. So it feels awkward. But John Gottman, one of the lead researchers in relationships, him and his wife, they have a free app called the Gottman Card Deck. And in there's a bunch of questions. There's questions about sex. There's questions about just dating and getting to know your partner.
Communication, emotions.
Roadmaps. They even have stuff outlined as sex. It's like, I think it's like mild, hot, and spicy, right? So the questions get a little bit more integrated. There's even ideas of what to do on dates. So that could be a really good guide. I've had couples where they're going on road trips and they
love that.
They open the card deck and they start asking questions on there to connect.
And it's good. If you don't have the tools, that's okay, right? That can be a big barrier of, I don't know what to say, so I'm just not going to say anything. Try to not lean that direction. It's tempting because it's what's more comfortable, but discomfort is when we grow, not comfort. So if you notice your relationship is feeling stale or not good, you have to get uncomfortable to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure people have heard this phrase, but you choose your hard. You can either choose to continue to have a shitty relationship. You can choose divorce or separation or whatever your relationship status might be, or you can choose to try something different, even if it ends up failing. Yeah. You get to choose your hard. And if you want your relationship to work, try choosing this hard. Try choosing a date, something fun. Maybe you start even with a date where you don't have to do a lot of talking to soften in. Start with going to the movies. Eventually, we want you to get to that place where you're actually communicating about yourselves, your marriage, your relationship, whatever it might be. But maybe you have to soften in a little bit, and that's okay.
You could do an activity together. Ice skating or roller skating. I think about,
oh gosh,
when I think about the trajectory of relationships or the evolution of relationships, people are like, we feel so good in the beginning, and great, there's some novelty to it. But what's happening in the beginning on a behavioral level that isn't happening now? And a lot of times it's that prioritization of,
effort.
I want to go to the roller rink, or I want to go ice skating, or I want to go to the movies. They don't do that now. A lot of the couples aren't doing those things. So getting back to that, even if it is being a 15-year-old again and going roller skating or bowling or something,
Axe throwing. There's all kinds of options.
depending on the level of resentment you have towards your partner, you might not want to, but
and it's hard with kids. So that's another piece, right? We've talked a bit about not talking about them. Access to childcare is really difficult, especially in our country. It can be incredibly expensive, hard to find, and hard to find quality, right? Where we feel safe.
mm-hmm.
So maybe it's talking to a neighbor and doing a date share where you watch their kids so they can go on a date and they watch yours so you can go on a date. Asking them who they use as a nanny, asking a family member if you have that privilege, trying to resource around it, or again, planning home dates once the kids are in bed.
Yeah.
Finding ways to really protect time is going to be crucial here. And it doesn't matter if you've been together 2 years, 5 years, 50 years. You have to keep dating your partner.
And just as dating takes effort, so does getting rid of the barriers. And the barriers, if that's childcare, there are resources in the community. Oftentimes, some schools have programs,
libraries,
date nights, churches. Like maybe you find one that doesn't necessarily or meets your religion to some extent or spirituality. They might have resources where they watch the kids for a night and they allow parents to go on date nights. There are resources in the community that you can tap into.
And it's hard. It's hard to leave our kids with someone we don't know or trust. That is hard. So do your vetting process. And sometimes I hear people say, I don't have time to do that vetting process. I don't have time to find someone. Then you're going to be, I tell people this all the time. If you don't make time for your health, you're going to have to make time for the disease. The same is true in relationships. If I don't make time for the health of my relationship, I'm going to be forced to make time for the disease of the relationship, which could be divorce.
Yep.
That's going to take a hell of a lot more effort than going rollerblading once a week.
Yeah.
And so picking your heart and really thinking about, is this worth it?
Even if you don't feel, what we're talking about is really hitting you right now, reflect on your relationship and think about, like, are you dating? Like maybe things are still good. Because with couples, if you have kids and they leave the house, this is when it all typically comes to a head.
Yeah, empty nest.
It's because their function in the relationship has largely become of managing stress together, and they're really good as a team. Now, when your reason to be a team goes out the window, what do you have?
It's quiet. There's no one else to talk to.
You've seen this in COVID. Their relationship functioned off one working a lot and at home, and so they just kind of existed. There wasn't this connection piece. And granted, we're not talking about always head over heels for your partner.
Nope.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about going out, relaxing, spending a good time with them, where you're not talking about your problems. You're learning more about them because things change. We can't just assume we know everything about them. Not this idea of we're having a honeymoon phase again. That's typically probably not going to come back.
I love that you bring that up. People say, like, their goal is, I want to feel super attracted to my partner or feel that infatuation, or I want to feel like we used to. You're not going to. Let that go. You are never going to feel like you used to because life changed. Whether it's kids or jobs or stress or health or whatever. It's finding a new relationship, finding a new space that feels good. But if your benchmark for success is that hot and heavy stage at the very beginning, ain't gonna happen.
It's some couples that does happen.
It's not sustainable.
It's not the honeymoon phase because guess what? You have knowledge about your partner. You have injuries with your partner.
They're assholes. Everyone's an asshole.
You have knowledge that's different, right? But you can get back to a point where you want to be around them. You find them attractive in a different light. Like you find your husband attractive when he's vacuuming now.
I do. When he's shampooing.
Whereas before when you met him is when he's putting his hand through his hair and shaking it in the wind, right? I mean,
he had hair past his shoulders when I first met him.
Running down the beach. Like that was now it's putting his hand through his hair as he's moving the Swiffer.
Pointing out all his grays. Yeah, when I first met him, his hair was past his shoulders.
Wow.
And so 20 years later, he's now a financial advisor.
I have a lot of questions about your attraction level back then, but we won't get in there.
It's crazy to think about, right? Think about your past relationship. What did you love about your partner when you first met? How do we bring some of that back?
Yeah.
Not gonna be exactly the same. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It shouldn't be, right? You are now a more complex system, which is a good thing. At the beginning, that hot and heavy, great, but it doesn't last. You're not meant to live on mountain peaks, right? We know that life isn't sustainable at a mountain peak. We're not meant to live there. We're meant to experience the valleys, the journey up and down the mountain.
Yeah.
We can't stay up there.
Well, I'm just kidding.
I wish.
Well,
Then we wouldn't have a
Disney
job.
told me we do.
Oh, Disney. That's a whole nother.
There are a lot of false expectations about what it should look like. And that definitely plays into, our disappointment when it doesn't happen. There's nothing wrong with going to a therapist when we think about growth. Just because you go to a couples therapist doesn't mean that something's wrong.
Truth.
I find it helpful because, one, you can learn new skills to better it and bring things to the forefront of your attention or awareness, such as, oh, we haven't been dating. Oh, I haven't thought about these free dates. Like, we don't have to really spend a lot of money. We can go fall leaf peeping or whatever if you have that season where you live. It doesn't have to be, crap, something is really wrong with our relationship. And what I like about it is the therapist can look at it and say, hey, I noticed one barrier to you guys dating is that there isn't much reciprocity in who actually initiates this. Or maybe I noticed one partner has a lot of stress and you can't really do anything until that stress is managed. So then, do you refer to an individual therapist or do you work on stress management there as a dyad, as a couple? Like, just finding these little barriers doesn't mean something's wrong. It's called being human. But once we pick these things out, it's going to set us up for success far more than if we weren't to do it. We're not to do it.
And if we're being honest as couples therapists, I would much prefer someone come see me to learn the tools before it's the 11th hour than waiting until shit is totally screwed up, right?
Yeah.
If you can come in sooner, like I have a couple who they're still dating and they come just to make sure their relationship is good. Think more maintenance. And I love that. Or parents that come from the moment they find out they're pregnant or trying to get pregnant, not waiting until after baby's here.
Yeah.
If we can prevent some of the dysfunction, it makes it so much easier to recover.
Yeah.
So catching it as soon as you can catch it, right? Sometimes we don't notice it or it's not egregious enough until it is that 11th hour. And that's okay. You can still come in, of course. But the sooner you can catch it, same with dating, the sooner I can catch that I'm feeling disconnected and plan a date, do something to fix that, it'll be so much easier to keep it on the rails.
And I do like the fact when I give this homework for couples to go date is it can also serve as a barometer for maybe this isn't a relationship someone wants to stay in.
Yeah.
Because you'll notice one partner's just not in it. They just don't care. They're not making the effort. The other person will try and they're always met with, no, not tonight. So, I mean.
Or they're more interested in their phone than you.
Yeah.
If we can't get past the phone is such a big barrier. Rule of date night, put your phone away. It only gets to sit on the table if you're needing to hear about kids or anything like that. But it sits on the table, you don't touch it. Put it away.
Here's a big, big one that I think is missed a lot is when you're in this attempt to try to date again, do not judge your partner's attempts.
Yes.
Really? This is all you're going to do for me? I literally did X, Y, Z. It's like,
I hear it all the time.
There goes you're not going to date for a while now because
they're not going to try again.
Why would you be vulnerable with your partner to think of a date again? Like you're literally setting up for a lack of reciprocity. Well, they didn't put much effort. I put more into it. Well, now that you criticize them for that, they're going to put zero effort in. So
now they're not going to do it at all.
Good job.
We want to give gratitude for the big and the small. So if they're putting in any effort, I really love that you did that. Thank you for buying that movie. Thank you for bringing me home flowers, even if I hate flowers. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Focus on the effort. And it doesn't, you can say something like, I really love that you did that. It means a lot to me that we're moving towards kind of trying to connect again. What are your thoughts on like planning a date somewhere out for the weekend? Like, would you feel comfortable doing that?
It's not shooting down the effort. It's, hey, next time, let's try this.
Like, I would love that. Like, that stuff really fills my cup. Not, you never plan anything for the weekends. It's always just some bullshit where you get pizza and a movie. It's
Sounds
easy.
like you've heard this before.
I have not. Oh, not from my relationship.
As a therapist.
I've heard this as a therapist, yeah. I'm pulling from anecdotal experience.
It happens over and over and over again as couples therapists that we hear this. I had a couple this week ask me, what the heck do we talk about? So what are things we can talk about, right? Going back to the Gottman card deck, you can use that. We can talk about, again, kids and work are off the table, or it's for, like I tell them, a contained amount of time. You get 10 minutes to talk about little Johnny, and then that's it. Or 10 minutes to talk about work, that's it.
No finances. I know you love that one, Kim.
Oh, praise me. Praise me. No finances. We're talking about things like dreams, goals, what, and we mentioned it earlier, but like what turns you on, or what am I hoping for in this relationship? Or what would fill my cup? What are my needs in the relationship? Get deep with your partner.
What's working for you?
Mm-hmm. What are you grateful for?
And granted, so I would say a caveat to this is Gottman has this like 30-minute stress reduction conversation. Mm-hmm. And I like that because some couples do feel connected when talking about or being able to relieve their stress.
Sure.
But the reason why this one I think is effective because it's done in a very specific way. And it's you're allowing your partner to talk for, I don't know, say 10 minutes and you're not solving it. You're just listening.
Just listening.
That's tough. That sucks. And great, let's move on or switch and the other person talk about stress. Sometimes that can be helpful if you're not wanting to get deep right there and your comfort level is not there, depending on context, or maybe you haven't built that connection back up to where you want to be vulnerable enough. But giving that space to process stress,
but
to relieve that, but it's contained and it's done in a structured way to where it's not fixed, it doesn't add more stress. You feel heard and validated. That feels connecting too.
Even for partnerships that have been together for 20 years, and I speak on this on my own. This past week, my husband, I forget what it was, told me something. And I was like, I did not know that about you. You will never know your partner entirely, ever.
Yeah.
Asking about childhood stories. Ask them about what is their favorite moment that they've ever had in life. Get curious about things you think you might know that you don't actually know.
Yeah.
Because it changes.
Yeah. Like explore the relationship. Why do you have the relationship with your family that you do?
Mm-hmm. Do you want it to be different?
Do you want it to be different? Like, do you have goals with our family and do we want to do anything different in holidays coming up? Or is there something in a relationship that you want to focus on as a family or as a couple? Because you can talk about your family there, but not necessarily problem stuff, but more of what do we want to do as a family? Because that's exciting. You're a team and you're wanting to work towards it if you can. Yeah.
Right. Lord knows I am a huge advocate for traveling if you have the resources to do so. But maybe it's, okay, we want to go on a trip in 5 years. Spend your date looking at some places you want to go, looking at different countries or hotels or whatever. Allowing yourself to dream, even if it's 5 years out. That can be really fun for couples or enjoyable to do.
What I like about that is that it may not seem feasible right now, but if it gives you something to work towards, now it gives you something to be a team that's different than being a parent or navigating stress from work or what have you. And I do have some couples, this is why what we're talking about doesn't fit everyone perfectly, because I have couples who connect on solving problems. So I would suggest them going out to dinner and having conversations about their fantasy football team or things where they're competitive and they can navigate it together. They're very, very, very good. They can do home projects and that's when they're at their best.
They're the IKEA couple.
They can build IKEA furniture and love each other at the end of it. I'm like, what? What is this? They can do like landscaping projects. Like we had a great weekend. Like, what'd you do? Like we rolled sod. I'm like, what?
Sounds awful.
Okay. Why? What worked for you? And they're just a team. They're not talking about problems. They can focus on the objective. So finding what works for you. We're just kind of giving ideas of what to stay away from typically. But if you know your relationship better than us, find what you can and can't talk about. What's the hot topics, what's not. And just be very strategic about that and try to reduce any defensiveness or conflict the best you can.
Do you feel good at the end of the conversation? If talking about fantasy football or some of those things stresses you out, that one gets left off the table for you as a couple.
Yeah.
If it doesn't stress you out, if it feels fun and engaging, cool, bring it in. Use the barometer of, I think about like your heartbeat, your physiological response. Do you feel excited, feel good, or do you feel stressed or pissed off? If you feel stressed or pissed off, that's a no-no topic. Travel is one. Like travel, Chris and I do travel really well. Other couples, travel is not so good. So it's knowing your strengths and knowing your growing edges.
Yeah, and where the common ground is.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going to throw a wrench in this. There are things that your partner feels more connected over that you could give two shits about.
Truth.
In those situations, curiosity. Ask questions. And I think about a couple wanting to remodel the house. One partner, no, we need this color. If the other partner doesn't care, great. What do you like about that color? What is your overall like sense of what you want this to look like? Because sometimes even if you do want to be a part of it, but you know it's more important for your partner, maybe you give that up. You're like, you know what? They're connecting over this. This is important to them. They're excited. I can tell. That's more important right now. Maybe later you can say, I would love for you to hear my thoughts and what I'm thinking, and we can incorporate that at some other time or something.
I love that you bring up the interest piece because your interests aren't going to directly match your partner's. So do things that don't just fill you up, fill them up. Show them that you care by engaging in shit that doesn't matter. Like my husband, we went to a car show. Newsflash, I really don't care about cars. I just want a nice car that I can drive. But beyond that, super don't care. He loves cars, classic cars. I'm going to butcher this, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's something him and his dad join over. So I agreed to go to this car show. Do I actually care about the cars of the car show? Nope. Hard nope. But I care that he wants me there.
Yeah.
And wants me in a good mood while I'm there. I'm not sitting there like, oh, this is so stupid. I am smiling. I'm engaging. I'm saying, which car do you like?
Yeah.
Why do you like this car? We brought our kids and my father-in-law and my father and letting them engage. That to him is fulfilling just the same way because it shows that I care about him and his interests, even if I don't actually care about the interest myself.
As you're talking, I'm just visualizing you walking by these cars with the hoods open. You're like, oh, that's just another shiny block inside of the hood.
96 degrees that day, Greg.
It was outdoors. Oh my God.
There was, I want to say 4,000 cars.
Oh, wow.
And I had 2 children who were crying. It was really great. But it filled his cup.
Yeah.
Right? So dating doesn't just mean when I'm sitting on a date with him. It's giving him time to engage in his hobbies. So going shooting with his dad.
Yeah.
It's giving him time to be by himself and practice self-care. It is showing that I care about him, even if it's inconvenient, hard, or boring for me.
Yeah.
Right? He does the same for me. I get my nails done. He doesn't understand it. But part of him dating me is saying, please go do that. That's good for you.
Yeah.
I'll create the time, the space, the finances to do so. That can be huge when we're dating.
But he's
our
not going to
partner.
the nail salon with you and connecting with you.
No, but he probably would. He loves my nail tech.
Some people can. Yeah, I mean, kind of an example of this with my wife and I is we had the luxury and privilege to remodel a part of our house.
Yeah.
And to make it more functional, because we didn't buy a functional house because we're smart. And
you
so,
your own.
so we talked about it and we're like, cool. We did what we talked about. Her and I were like, all right, a couple years from now, let's save up, let's do this. And we were excited about it. She lights up about this stuff. And before, I don't know, not even 5 minutes after we talk about it, our Home Depot cart is full of all the materials and designs. So she's already designed this and everything. And so I'm like, okay, great. What do you like about this? What do you, right? She's already had this all planned out but she loves it and she gets excited about it and she connects with me on it when I talk about it. So that's something I have to back off a little bit and then do exactly as I said. I practice what I preach is, what are your thoughts on maybe moving this or doing this instead? And that's much, much more effective than you didn't listen to me. Mm-hmm. Why do you all, and granted, I've done that before. I'm human.
We all have.
Yeah.
I talk about the emphatic yes, right? To your point with Taylor or to my point with Chris. When he asked me to go to the car show, I'm like, sure, I'll go. That doesn't sound good. Or am I saying, yes, I'd love to go? He knows I don't want to go, but I want to go with him. It's the emphatic yes of, yes, I'm interested in you. Yes, I want to do this because it's important to you, because it makes you feel good. Yes, I want to go to a Marvels movie. No, I don't. But I want to go to be with him. And how I say yes to him matters. If I say, sure, fine, or I get there and I'm bitching the whole time, that's not an emphatic yes. That is not going to be enjoyable for anybody. Right? So also practicing that piece of, sometimes I'm not going to love the date ideas or the topics or what he needs. And it doesn't mean I can't be excited for him.
Yeah. My wife says emphatic, sure. Sure. I'm like, does that mean you, wait, what?
Not, it's fine.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Not complaining about it, not challenging their effort, not, judging their effort, not making a fuss about what they're wanting to do. I mean, granted, this is very complex. We brought up a lot of features of dating, right? Even the reciprocity of it and the effort of who's initiating these more.
Taking turns.
Because that's a big one that comes up for me with couples is that
it's always me.
One partner always does this, And typically it is, unfortunately. So figuring out what that is, maybe talk to a professional, navigating it, and do it to build your relationship, not because something's wrong, but because it can be better. And let's be honest, there's something wrong with all of our relationships, even with me as a therapist and trained in this. I mean, you and I have doctorate levels in relationships.
And we still mess it up.
Yeah, some more than others, but just kidding.
There's no perfect way to do this. The core of this is show effort. Try to create change. Again, 80% of the time, we're not expecting 100% perfection, but you have to put in effort. You have to try.
Nothing's going to change in your relationship if you don't.
True.
And even if you think things are going okay right now, is okay good enough for you? Do you feel connected, or are you just, this is your homeostasis? This is your baseline of, we're doing fine because we function together as a team. Great.
Can you sustain this for the long term?
Yeah, what happens when that project goes away?
This is tough. Dating is tough. And I'm not talking about the very beginning of the relationship. That's the fun, sexy part.
It's tough though too in parts, but yes.
It's true. But dating through the lifespan, dating through the span of the relationship, no matter how long it is. Well, this has been Relationships Inside Out, where today we talked about dating, continuing to date even after things get boring, tiring, hard, whatever it might be. As always, if anyone has any questions or topic suggestions, feel free to email us at relationshipsinsideout@gmail.com. Thanks.
Thanks.